Hello everyone. I wanted to give you a little bit of a short-term review of my brand new YT Jeffsy. I've been owning it for about 2 weeks now. Had a chance to get out on the trails probably about 5 or 6 times, and kind of wanted to give you my first impression here. I live in Michigan. We do have a lot more cross-country oriented trails here in the area, and one thing I really looked into was first and foremost getting an ISO. Reasoning behind that obviously is it's more oriented for trails like this, trails we have in Michigan. But ultimately I decided to go with the ISO, with the Jeffsy, because I wanted more of an all-around bike. I am planning on traveling around a little bit, and I wanted to get something more all-mountain style. Capra was out of the question because that is way overbiked for the area I live in. And you know, with the release of the Jeffsy, with the release of the ISO, the Jeffsy's kind of the middle child here, because now you got a nice bike in the trail category, you got a really decent bike in the enduro category, and the Jeffsy's kind of like in between. But ultimately, in the end of the day, really a good bike for what I'm trying to achieve, what I'm looking for. So I made my choice, and you know, the first couple of rides, I come from a hardtail, was a bit rough, to be honest. So don't get discouraged if you also, like me, come from a hardtail and you actually decide and you are getting a Jeffsy. You will get a lot of pedal strikes, but once you learn how to ratchet, once you actually have your rear shock dialed in, it's going to be a really great ride. Now, I've got to say, don't really trust the manufacturer's recommendations, especially on the rear shock. Front shock is fine, dialed it in according to my weight. Rear shock, I really had to pump up more. I'm 185 pounds. I actually run this at about 220 psi, and it seems to be really comfortable now, nice and plush, but not too bouncy. So once I got that figured out, ride was much more pleasant, and really got it dialed in nicely right now. Another thing I was not familiar with were the G2R brakes. Read about it, and you know, people saying that they're more like mini Code Rs, and I came from the Guide Ts. I've got to say, they are a step up, but don't expect a major step up from a Guide. What I did though on my Guides, I put on some metallic pads, and that was a game changer. Ultimately, this is braking well for what I'm riding, but I may switch over to a different type of brake pad down the road as well. Handlebars are perfect width for me, coming from 800 millimeters. This is actually much more enjoyable, and on some of those tight corners, easier to squeeze through some of those trees. So I really got no complaints there. So I will keep the cockpit pretty much stock for now. And the YT Postman is also great. I had an issue right at the beginning of the get-go with a lot of creaking noises, but nothing that a little bit of grease actually fixed. So I pulled out the dropper, put a light amount of grease on it, and it's been performing fine. Thing I don't like, but also something I didn't know getting into it and purchasing it, because both of my other bikes had the same derailleur, is the NX Eagle derailleur, and that is something I will probably upgrade first. It does the job, it's fine. However, you can dial it in, it runs smooth for a couple of rides, and then you will have your occasional missed shifts, and might be my Might be me, might be not dialing it in correctly, but I feel like upgrading the derailleur down the road will be a much more enjoyable and better ride. Other than that, the rotors, they're both 200, and I've got to say, obviously the stopping power is good enough, but I've got to say, once you get above the 180, you just got a lot of clanging noises on the rotors, and they're, you know, they're great, but I think 180 would have been sufficient for the bike right here. Tires are great, no complaints. Same with the DT Swiss wheel sets. They're awesome. No complaints about the hubs as well. So really happy with the bike itself. One thing you want to think about, especially if you get the Black Magic paint scheme, is frame protection. I started out with all mountain frame protection. I put it on some certain spots, and then I didn't like one. I took it back off. I used a heat gun, and with the matte color, if you pull it off, you have a lot of residue you got to clean off with, you know, isopropyl alcohol. And the more you actually wipe on the frame, on the matte color, the shinier it gets. That is a disadvantage of the matte color itself, and that is a problem a lot of bikes have in that color scheme. So, you know, if you want frame protection, go ahead and put it on. If you ever want to take it off, just be aware of that. I will still put some on, because with the 29er wheels, you do have a lot of gravel strikes and stone strikes. So you definitely at least want to protect your bottom tube, probably right behind your seat post, and then of course right around the chainstay you want to get some protection on there too. Overall, it's a great bike. I don't know if you've seen some reviews of the older versions of the Jeffsy. A lot of people say, you know, it's a great all-arounder. It does nothing like outstandingly great, but it does everything well, and I have to agree with that. One concern I did have was the climbing capability, especially coming from a 130 millimeter pike to the Fox 38, and with the geometry itself. But this bike is climbing decently well. So it met my expectations on the climbing, and where it really lives, obviously, is going downhill trails. But yeah, anyways, if you have any questions about the bike, please let me know. Happy to answer any questions you may have. But I'm gonna ride down this hill here, and thank you for listening to me, and you all have a great day, and I might see you on the trails.